Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining us today, and thanks, Dr. Hashil, for volunteering to give this interesting and informative talk titled An Introduction to Research and Reflective Thinking. Before give the floor to Dr. Hassan and introduce other attendees, I'd like to start briefly by introducing Dr. Hassan. We'll just give you some background about Dr. Hassan and then introduce other speakers today. And then I'll give the microphone to Dr. Hassan. We can where he can lead us through the journey of research and reflective thinking. So that's Dr. Hashil Al-Saadi. Dr. Hashil, language lecturer and research trainer, the Sultan Qaboos University in Oman. He got his PhD in education from the UK, from the University of Sheffield, and he focused on learn autonomy and voice in higher education. Dr. Hashil's research interests include learner autonomy, critical teacher education, and qualitative research methods, and reflective group discussions in particular. He has led numerous workshops on learner-centered teaching, and he's a reviewer for journals like TESOL Journal and Language Teaching Research. Dr. Hashil's academic contribution is really wide-cited. He is deeply committed to supporting learners, and I know that he has kindly volunteered this term and last term to teach students at Al-Saadi University, and this should reflect his approach in supporting students in crisis contexts. We'll start with Dr. Hashil. We'll talk about research and reflective thinking, but briefly, I just would like to welcome George Clutterbuck again. Welcome again, George. George is a doctoral researcher at the University of Sussex, and she's a member of the editorial team at Brief Encounters. And welcome again, Millie Riddle, who is a doctoral researcher as well at the Courtauld Institute of Art, and she's a member of the editorial team at Brief Encounters. We are also delighted to have Chris Bates, who is a doctoral researcher at the University of Sussex, and who also is a member of the editorial team at Brief Encounters. So thanks for making it, everybody. Your effort is really appreciated in supporting our students. I welcome staff from the English department at Al-Saadi University who are with us today. I welcome all the students who are with us, and I will now give the floor to Dr. Hashil to start his webinar, and hopefully after that, and George, Millie, and Chris will be talking to you about how you could contribute to the journal, taking into consideration what Dr. Hashil will be talking about. Dr. Hashil, the floor is yours.
Yes, okay. First of all, let's check if you can hear me and see me well. Excellent. Okay, thank you so much. Thanks, Dr. Ahmed, for the nice introduction. Welcome, everybody. My name is Hashil, and as Dr. Ahmed says, I'm a lecturer and a researcher at Sultan Qaboos University in Oman, but not right now. I'm in Sheffield, spending my sabbatical, and also teaching. I got the privilege to teach Al-Aqsa students, which is a big honor for me, to be honest. Our session today is an introduction to research and reflective thinking. I will be taking you through this journey on reflective thinking, a little bit of research, but today we're not going to focus that much on research methods. That will be the topic of the subsequent webinars or workshops. But today I would like to give a general introduction of reflective thinking and how reflective thinking could be used to enhance our research and the quality of our research. So before that, let me give you an overview of the research enhancement webinars we are planning for our dear students in Gaza. And a big welcome to everyone who's joining us today. I'm sure a number of my own students are also present today. So a big thank you for making it to this workshop. And of course, a big welcome to everyone. So let's give it an overview of the whole series of workshops or webinars we are planning. This is the first one, which is like meant to be an introduction to research and reflective thinking. We'll then be proceeding to Dr. Ahmed. Can you confirm the slides are moving on you?
Yeah, they are moving, and yeah, all good.
Excellent. Thank you. After this session, we are planning another one on the types and classifications of research and research papers. And the purpose here is to give our students an overview of the types of research and the different types of research papers they can produce. Later on, we'll be talking about a topic. A big concern sometimes to some students, they approach me, say, Dr. Hashil, how can I choose my research topic? Can you suggest some topics for me? And my usual response to this is I usually ask them to do a little bit of reflection, on their own and considering their own situation. And I always like to say that this is going to guarantee you'll find a suitable topic for your research. You don't want someone, you don't want like really, you don't need someone to suggest topics for you. The topics usually come from within your environment, from within your context. You just need a little bit of thinking and reflective thinking, and you will be amazed by the number of ideas you can pick for your research. We will then be talking about also how you can write a research proposal, which can be good enough to be accepted for your project. What are the research methods and how we can apply them? This is something also important. So we'll be talking like here about quantitative, qualitative, and mixed methods perhaps, and the specific designs under each one of these broad methods. How to write a research paper for publications, how to get published, what are the journals requirements for publications, for manuscripts to be accepted, and so on. So we are hoping that our students will be able, by the end of the session, by the end of this of these series of sessions, will be able to write, put their ideas on paper and produce something academic, something scholarly that can be accepted by journals for publications. So this is something also important. Writing the title and abstract of your research paper. You know that the title should follow the research objectives and the research design as well. Qualitative research, a title to a qualitative research is different from a title to a quantitative research. And also these two are different from to the titles of if you are planning a research on mixed methods and so on. The title usually reflects the core of the topic of your research, and as well as the design. So you need to know how to write good title and also good abstract, the structure of abstract, component of abstract, and so on. We also want to help students understand the types and functions of literature review. Lit review for quantitative research is not a lit review for quality, in terms of focus, in terms of length, and so on, scope as well. And then number 9 here we have, so we want to help our students understand and use quantitative and then qualitative and then mixed methods research. Well, they can hopefully, wherein they can integrate quantitative and qualitative research. So these are a list of 11 topics we try to cover. And of course, I'm flexible, and I always want to students to suggest their own topics as well. So let's begin. Let's kick off with this first one, Introduction to Research and reflective thinking. Before we proceed, I just want to note here that I would like you to interact. I will pause sometimes. I'll give you the floor to interact either in writing using the chat box or even by unmuting your mics and talking to me. And this applies to, of course, our dear guests, Dr. Ahmed, the representatives here of the journal, or of course our dear students. So please don't hesitate to unmute your mic and talk throughout this session when I pause and ask for interaction. All right. Okay, so this is meant to be interactive. I always like to teach interactive way, and all my sessions or workshops are interactive. Okay, let's kick off with this goals, quick goal, 3 main objectives. We want to understand the key concepts of research and reflective thinking. We also aim to explore how reflection can enhance our research practices. And also, we will also engage with some practical tools and activities in research. Let's first look at this, understanding reflective thinking. What is reflective thinking? All right. How is it different from our everyday thinking? Okay. So the first point here is about that reflective thinking examines beliefs, our values and experiences. So it's not just quick thinking or random thinking. No, it's examines the kind of thinking that examines our beliefs. What are my beliefs? What are my values? Okay, and how can I reflect on an experience I have gone through recently? So that's the reflection. So the purpose is to examine our beliefs and values. Are they right? Are they in line with our main principles, or maybe I need to make some modifications and so on. So this kind of thinking that you are engaged in. All right. It also helps us improve our learning and decision making. Okay, this all in particular for our students. Reflective thinking will always improve the quality of your learning. It will always improve how you learn. It will always improve your thinking and decision making. If you are a reflective person, this will also help you not just in academia, but also in your everyday life. Reflective practices are always important. Sean here has got a model for us where he talks about reflection in action and reflection on action, and he makes the distinction between the two here. Reflection in action is like the kind of reflection you do while you are in the action. While, for example, you are writing an assignment, preparing an assignment for one of your courses. The kind of thinking, kind of reflective thinking you do while doing the assignment could take, for example, a week or so. So that kind of thinking that you do is the in-action reflection, according to the model of Sham. If you are doing the kind of thinking and reflection after you have submitted your assignments, then it will be a reflection on action. So you have done it and now you are thinking about it. So in action and on action, the two types of reflection. And again, these are what we call the retrospective and introspective thinking. Retrospective thinking is when you think about a past experience, you rethink, you reconsider what you have done. The introspective is when you think about a future action. There's something, for example, you are about to take a final exam or submit a project. Okay, so I need to think about it. What are the expectations of this assignment? What are the expectations of my supervisors? And so on. So you'll be thinking ahead of time. That is introspective. The retrospective is when you think about previous experiences, and both are actually important, and they're both intertwined in our and they help us, of course, improve our actions. Okay. It's a reflection enhances our critical thinking by deepening our understanding and insights, and also kind of support the critical thinking and kind of reflection and critical thinking together also support analysis, evaluation, and synthesis. And of course, it also encourages questioning our assumptions and seeing new perspectives, okay, and so on. So here you can see how reflection and critical thinking go together. So how reflective thinking could also help you develop critical thinking, which is also an important attribute of students as well, and of course everyone else. So this shows us how this reflection can also helps you become more critical about yourself, critical about your thinking, about your practices, and critical about the world around you. And dear students, I just want you to would like you to make this connection between critical thinking and research. Okay, we're going to see later on how the two come together into play, because you can't really become a very good researcher if you lack critical thinking. And if you lack critical thinking, then of course you're lacking the reflection. So reflection is important because it enhances our critical thinking. Our critical thinking is a core component of research. You see what I mean? This kind of relationship between the reflection, critical thinking, and then research. You see what I mean? Because through reflection, you develop critical thinking. Through critical thinking, then you become, a research. You develop research mind, okay, research mindset. So that will help you with research. Let's look at this distinction between our everyday thinking and reflective thinking. Let's take a definition. In terms of definition, our everyday thinking is a usual automatic thinking, which is often quick and unconscious, not necessarily conscious, sometimes can be unconscious, quick, okay, intuitive, and so on. So, but on the other hand, reflective thinking, also known for reflective practice, it's a process of actively evaluating experiences. See, you can see now that we are more serious, we are more conscious here, we are evaluating our experiences in order to gain insights and improve our future action. So you see the scope is different here, okay? I'll give you an example in a minute. Let's look at the nature of everyday thinking. It's quick, often intuitive, okay, automatic and unconscious. But the reflective thinking, on the other hand, is usually slower, conscious, and requires focused attention, okay? Let's look at the purpose. The purpose of everyday thinking is to navigate our everyday situations, okay? Going shopping, doing my homework, attending a lecture, okay? At the weekend, perhaps you go visit friends and so on. That's the everyday situations. But the reflective thinking is about learning from experiences and also improving skills. So we engage in reflective thinking for this purpose. It's not just our everyday kind of thinking, but we engage in reflective thinking because we want to improve our future actions. We want to reflect and learn from our experiences, okay? I've completed an assignment and then I received a B from my supervisor or professor. Why did I get a B here? Okay, there must be something wrong there. Okay, let me go back and check the comments. Let me see how I can improve next time. That is reflective thinking. But if you just think quickly about it, oh, okay, I have an assignment tomorrow. Okay, I must prepare very well for it. Okay, let's go and do the necessary preparations. This is everyday thinking, all right? In terms of depth, as you can see here, sometimes can be superficial, but the reflective thinking involves deeper exploration and analysis. Okay, so that's the difference in terms of depth. Finally, in terms of outcome, the everyday thinking leads to immediate actions. Okay, you want to do so and so, so let me do that and that. So in order to achieve everyday in order to carry out everyday's actions. But the critical reflective thinking leads to long-term improvements and new insights. Okay, there's learning happening there. You can see that you are learning from actions. You are learning from not really the actions, but learning from reflection on actions. So you reflect on the actions and then you get new insights and you improve your actions. You see what I mean? So I want you, our dear students today, to think about this, that you have completed an assignment, you have done a presentation, you are taking a course, okay, and you engage in a long-term kind of thinking about what have I done, how can I improve in the future, what are my strengths or what are my weaknesses. You see, when you start analyzing this, so that's reflective analytical thinking, and this makes you more critical, and this will later on, as we're going to see, will help you formulate research questions. All right, be ready for that, a little bit of research there. So we're talking about how this could all lead us to better research mind. Okay, so let me give you a quick example. If you are always, miss your keys, I didn't know where your keys are, and you said, okay, oh, I'm missing my keys. Where are they? Oh, I must have put them on my kitchen table. I always do that. So you go and pick them up from the kitchen's table. That's everyday thinking. But if you engage in something like thinking like something like, oh, okay, why I always miss my keys? What can I do in order to stop forgetting my keys? I need perhaps to put like a designated place for them so I don't forget them. So this kind of thinking, you are thinking of not just what you have done and how you can find your keys, but it's about how you can improve in the future by, like, for example, designing like designating a particular place for your keys so you don't miss them again in future. You see, kind of thinking. So where are my keys? I must have forgotten them in the kitchen table. Let me go and pick them up from there. That's everyday thinking. But the reflective thinking is when you say something like, oh, okay, why I keep forgetting my keys every day, every time I want to go out. I must do something to improve them. What can I do? Okay, perhaps I can like hang them in a designated place sometimes, maybe next time, so I don't forget them again, and so on. So that kind of reflective thinking and everyday thinking. And I hope this is clear. Later on, if you want to take notes, please. Just take notes on these ideas, and if you need to ask questions later, then of course I'd be more than happy to get your questions. All right, and I hope you are taking notes. Okay, this is a very good skills. Okay, let's look at this reflective thinking in practice. Self-reflection, critical analysis, and learning from mistakes. These are the usual outcomes of reflective thinking. When you consider your own experiences, your behavior, decision-making processes, that's a kind of self-reflection. Your critical analysis is also when you analyze the strengths and weaknesses of your actions and the context in which they occurred. This is critical analysis of the situation. And of course, when you learn from your mistakes, you identify areas for improvement and developing strategies for future situations. Okay, if you can take this to the example I've just mentioned about the situation or the instances when you always forget your keys. Okay, every time you want to go out, you see what I mean? So you engage in reflection, self-reflection, critical analysis of the situation, and then you learn from your mistakes and how you can improve your future actions. Okay, so that reflective thinking will then lead us to doing better research. Okay, what is research? Okay, we're trying to put things together here. And remember, this is only just an introduction, our first session on reflective thinking and research methods. We're not going down much into designs, okay, but just quick definition. Simply we can define research as a systematic investigation to discover or interpret facts. Okay, we engage in research in order to get solutions to the problems that are facing us, surrounding us. We want to discover new facts, solve problems, improve practice, or interpret facts. Okay, we engage in research sometimes because we want to understand situations, phenomena around us. So that's the research. Remember, it's systematic. What does it mean? Systematic means that it follows a system. It follows a particular procedure. So it's not random kind of activity. It's very well organized. It's systematic. It follows something called the scientific method. Okay, we will talk more about scientific method and what we mean by scientific knowledge as well, and what is science and what is not science, and so on. Okay. Of course, different types of research. We have basic research, we have applied research, we have quantitative, qualitative, and so on. Our subsequent workshops will tackle all these issues, the types of research, different designs, different approaches, and so on. Okay. There's one myth about research here, is that it's only for researchers and for experts, for scholars. And me as like a student, for example, if I'm a student, I'm not a researcher, I'm a student, and so I cannot do research. Okay, this is a misconception. All right. I think everyone could do research as long as you can reflect and contemplate. Okay, if you engage in a kind of reflection, if you reflect on an action, that is a basic research, because the purpose of reflection, as we said, is to improve future practice. So you learn lessons in order to improve your future actions, right? And so if you engage in this kind of thinking, you are actually doing research in one way or another. All right. So don't think about that. Research is so complicated thing. It's only for students who do masters or PhD, for scholars at the universities, and so on. No, even you as a student, you can engage in some sort of research by first learning how to become a reflective practitioner, a reflective person, and then through this you can develop skills, because you can develop research. Because you remember what I've said earlier, is that the kind of questions you ask during reflection can be developed into research questions. Okay, are you taking notes of this, guys? Yeah, very important. All right. So if you get this into this habit of writing down things, okay, then those questions you write during reflection could well become your future research questions. And you know that all research begins with questions. So we'll show you how you can link this to your questions. But if you are a student, you can become a researcher. Okay, right. And now I will pause for a while and would like to hear from you in 3 words maximum. How can you describe research? What does it mean to you when you do research, or if you want to do research? What do you think you will be engaging in? What do you think you will do? So let's hear from students or anyone else in the audience. What do you think research means to you? You can unmute your mic, or you can type in the chat box if you like. Go ahead, please. Let me see the chat box.
Evening, everybody.
Yes, please go ahead. Yeah, someone trying to speak?
Yes, welcome, Dr. Hashil and all my colleagues. It's nice to meet you and have a benefit. It's a fruitful online webinar class. I'm a master in the first semester. I'm translation methods. So it's a very fruitful class. According to your question about what is research mean, maybe I answer that research, it's a systematic process. Try to find a solution for any problem that encounter us in our daily life. So it's a chance to find solutions, think deeper about the causes of these problems, and try to tackle this problem.
Yes, thank you. Okay, someone else? Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay, research means to me that it is 3 words. It's an experiment to be conducted or to conduct, and also a study, to design, or a question to answer.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So you're going to conduct a study in order to answer questions. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Someone else?
Yes, I'd like to share my opinion. My name is Muna Jouda.
Yeah.
I think research means it's a way of thinking and writing ideas, sharing experience in a specific topic, and according to publish it, to find solutions, to find ways to solve problems that other teachers or researchers face in their work or study.
Yeah, okay. And I noticed that you always want to link research to finding solutions to problems, and also for the purpose of improving future practices through those solutions. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And is it systematic or is it random?
I think it's systemic.
It's systematic. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Follows a certain procedure. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And according to make it real, true, so and scientific.
Okay, good. Okay, right. I've got another question here. Why do you think research has to be systematic and follows procedures, clear procedures? Why it's not just random?
If you write it in random way, other researchers wouldn't follow it or memorize it.
Right. Okay. Right. Okay. Good. In other words, you want to say that we want
Can I say
people
anything?
to have
Sorry.
trust, right? We want to have trust
Yes.
in the results. Good. How can we get people to trust our work, our findings? Okay. In order to do that, you need to follow procedures, and also you need to have things done in a certain way in order for people to accept your findings and have some kind of trust. Okay, so you want to present something that is trustworthy, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Someone
Hello.
else? I can
Yes.
see Dr. Saif you have put your hand up.
I'm talking. Is anyone?
Okay, yeah, someone
Okay.
else.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, thanks for your presentation. It was really helpful for me and for all of us. I'm here to ask about the PhD, first of all. But before saying that someone has spoken about the truth and so on. I don't believe in one definite truth for anything, and I don't believe in systematic way. Everyone writes in his own way. Everyone has his own systematic way. There is no one like a global systematic way.
Yeah.
That's first the first thing. And regarding to the PhD, since I have recently finished my master degree, and I'm hesitant to take this step since I have an idea in my mind that this degree is about finding something new. And I don't believe in that. This is the problem. I believe that we are all recycling knowledge, and everyone, it's about the way that we present the idea. It's not about, it's not about the knowledge itself. The knowledge, it is, as it was. So I because I have this mindset, I'm afraid to take this step. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, you don't have to worry, my dear. You don't have to worry about this, because it's not about like getting something new as much as it's about offering a contribution. Okay, your research will need to come up with a contribution to knowledge, or contribution to methodology or theory, for example, or even just to improve practice and so on. So, some sort of contribution needs to be there in your research in order to in order to make it research and of high quality. Okay, don't worry about like being systematic in the same way that other peoples are doing it. Everyone has its own, as you said, everyone has its own way of making their research systematic. But there are some general broad guidelines that are agreed upon that makes our research rigorous. Okay, rigor is an important concept in research, and we expect you to follow certain procedures, okay, in your way, of course, in a way that I, for example, as a reviewer of your research, will then can follow the procedures, and you can provide me with justifications for your actions, for your decisions, and so on. For example, if you want to do quantitative research using a survey or questionnaires, okay, do you have a reason for that? If you can provide me with good justifications and reason for your choices, then that is systematic. Okay, that's rigorous. See what I mean? And then of course I'll be able to help you, and of course provide you with some feedback and guidelines. Yeah, but of course we need to follow certain procedure in order for others to trust our findings and to trust our results. Thank you everyone for sharing their views. Okay, so research, generally speaking, it's an investigation. It has to be systematic in the way that it follows certain procedures, and I can justify my choices. We have different types of research, and the myth here is that research is only for experts. When we say that this is not true. Okay, let's continue on with your research journey. In your research journey, you start off by identifying a problem or a question, okay? And in order to do that, you'll need, of course, to become reflective. So you engage in a reflective thinking, and through that reflective thinking, you will be able to identify issues, problems, phenomena that you will need to explore, okay? And then you do a little literature review, try to understand the situation, try to understand the phenomena, and then through literature review, you can also find out what has been done before, so you don't have to like reinvent the wheel, as we say. And then you design your research, you work on the methodology, either quantity, quality, or mixed method. We'll talk more about those later. And then you start to collect your data, you analyze your data, you interpret the data, and then you share and disseminate your results. Okay, in journals, we'll talk about the journal later, and also in terms of publications or conferences. Okay, so that is the link. That's your research journey. As you can see, it's not that much complicated. So we want to make research accessible to our students. So don't worry about research. It's really fun, and it's really amazing. It will help you discover new ideas and new worlds, and you get to know new people by networking with others and so on. So the research can be really interesting. But as you can see, a note here at the bottom here says it's not always linear. So it's not always like a problem, lit review, methodology, data analysis. Sometimes when we get to data analysis, we feel that we need to collect more data in order to help us understand a particular aspect, a particular topic or subtopic. And then we go back to data collection and we use interviews or questionnaires. You see what I mean? So it's not always linear. Now, once you get, for example, to the fourth stage, it doesn't mean you can't go back to the second. You can. So research is reiterative. We see reiterative means that you can go back and repeat some of the actions that you have done earlier. So it's not linear, it's not one way, but it can be two ways, it can be dynamic. See what I mean? So think of research as organic and dynamic rather than linear, one following just one direction. Okay. How can you use now reflection? Now, this is when reflection and research come together. We ask ourselves, why this topic? What's working and what's challenging? Okay, through this kind of reflective questions. Okay, what's special about this topic? Okay, for example, we take a topic from my students in Gaza. Some of them wanted to explore the language used in international media to describe the crisis in Gaza, and this is one of the really interesting topics. Okay, so what makes this topic so appealing? Okay, now what's going to work in this kind of topic? All right. And what is challenging here? So you then you want to ask yourself these questions. You then move on to keeping some kind of journals or like notes, your voice notes, your private notes there, yes, as you can say. And then we revisit our assumptions regularly, and then we find out, okay, how we have done things, and then how we can improve these in the future. So this kind of reflection is very helpful in research. Okay, Dr. Ahmed, how can we remove this blue circle in the middle?
I think there is an eraser in editing, so I'm just trying to erase this. Tasneem, can you erase it? I don't know why. Tasneem, why did you circle that? Was it Tasneem or Maha? Maha, can you erase it? Clear. Let me just clear our drawings.
Okay, it's gone. Yeah,
Thank
done.
you.
Oh, thank you. Okay. All right, let's look at some of the tools for reflection, some structured reflection. Now we are moving from our own personal approaches to reflection to more structured reflections. There are more than one model we can use. One of the popular models is JIP's reflective cycle, and it includes the following 6 stages. Okay, it begins with description, moving on to feelings, evaluation, analysis, conclusion, and action plans. As you can see, the 6 stages of JIP's reflective cycle. And in our course, so for postgraduate students in Oman, we actually use JIP's reflective cycles with the students. We engage them in this kind of reflection. So they first describe the situation, then they describe their feelings, how they felt about that particular situation. And then they evaluate their actions. They write about the strengths and weaknesses, then do some kind of analysis, how they can improve in the future, and then conclusion, what they have learned from that experience and what they can do in the future. So there's 6 stages that comprises JIP's reflective cycle. There's also Kolb's learning cycle, and it has this 4 stages: experience, reflect, conceptualize, and then finally apply. So you can Google JIP's reflective cycle or Kolb's learning cycle, and you can then engage in any of these structured reflective actions. Okay, now let's look at reflective writing. Okay, we're talking about reflection, definition of reflection, characteristics of reflection. How is reflection different, or reflective thinking different from our everyday our everyday thinking, and how reflection and research go together. Now let's look at reflective writing. What kind of writing reflective writing is? What kind of writing it is? It's a systematic process of documenting your response to experiences, opinions, events, or new information. So when you write down your reaction to these experiences, then that is reflective writing. But it has, of course, to be systematic in a certain way. Okay, so but the first point is about documenting your responses. So you go through an experience. For example, I don't want to mention some of the really hard situations you are living now. We all, of course, sympathize with you. We all are also living this kind of feelings. No, and just to give an example, that, for example, you were forced to displace, okay? You are forced to flee your village or town and to move to another area, okay? That's an experience, okay? Unpleasant, of course, okay? So how can you document that kind of experience? What is your reaction to it, okay? Why do you think it has happened? What do you think are the consequences? What are happening to people who are displaced? Okay, so this kind of movement from one place to another. So this kind of displacement, is how is it happening? Why is it happening? How is it impacting the people? And then of course you write down your things. So that's the first point: documenting your responses to your opinions, you can document your response to experience, or you can document your responses to event or even new information. So, okay. And then it's a process, of course, of communicating your responses through and thoughts, of course, through this kind of journals you are doing. All right. Those journals you are writing can then be turned into a piece of research, can then be turned into a manuscript for publication. Okay, as we're gonna see later. All right. So that is reflective writing. Okay, let's look at this now. What is reflective writing not? Okay, reflective writing is not just conveying information. Okay, it's not instruction or argument in a superficial way. You are not writing about just any information. It's not our everyday writing. Okay, it's not superficial. Okay, and it's also not a pure description. Okay, although description can be involved, but it's not just description, but also goes beyond pure description to becoming reflective and critical as well. Okay. And number 3, reflective writing is not a straightforward decision or judgment. Okay. Here it's more of kind of reflection on what is going on. You engage in a deep kind of thinking, and it's not a rushed decision or a rushed judgment of things. Okay. And finally, it's not simple problem solving. Okay. So don't think of reflection as simple problem solving or as a straightforward judgment or decision. It's not a pure description, and it's not just conveying information. All right. So this is what it is. It's a systematic process of documenting your responses to experiences, opinions, events, or new information, and it's a way to communicate this kind of response to to the wider community. All right. Let's look at ethics in research. Is also when you write your reflection, you need to respect participants, you seek consent, and ensure confidentiality, of course, of the people you are writing about, or the people who are engaged or involved in one way or another in your research or in your reflection. You need to respect their privacy. They have to give consent, of course, for taking part, and so on. These are basic ethics. Be honest with the data and the citations, of course. You have to cite your references. Data must be used in a sensible way, a responsible way. And then finally, you reflect on ethical dilemmas and researcher responsibility. So you become aware of those responsibility for you as a researcher. So these are some ethics. Of course, ethics in research is a huge topic. We can talk more about it later. But these are just the basics, as we say in our first class session today. Okay, let's look at this reflection and the scholarship of teaching. And this is for any teachers, any members of faculty attending today. Dr. Ahmed, if there are any, then we can focus more on those kind of 3 types of research that are very relevant to teachers and faculty members.
Yeah, there are some teachers in there, so
yeah,
be great.
Yeah, so we talk about action research, we talk about subtle, and I have a different session, workshop on subtle and also action research. Subtle, it stands for Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, and the purpose of that is to we conduct research in order to improve teaching through systematic inquiry of what we do. So you are in a classroom, you do kind of observations, a reflection, and then through that you carry out, based on that you carry out your research. And through this kind of engagement in research, then you develop knowledge, new knowledge, and that is scholarship. Okay, so you based your practice on research results. That is scholarship. So SOTL is a kind of action research, a type of action research. And we also have the EAR, which is the exploratory action research, the EAR. That is also a type of action research or practitioner research, or sometimes called teacher research, or sometimes called classroom-based research. It has different descriptions, where different names. So this is a kind of reflective practices again that teachers also can be involved in. Because when I decided on this, I thought, okay, let me include something also for the faculty members who are present as well today. So we take them on board as well. So, but even our students who are like in their final year, for example, they are becoming like teachers in the future, right? So they can also engage in this kind of research when they become teachers in the near future, inshallah. Okay. Those are what are the common challenges and that we face. Sometimes we have this kind of problems, like we fear of failure or perfectionism. Like the previous student here today who said that I have finished my master's and I'm now want to proceed to PhD, but I have this fear. I don't know if it's fear or just an anxiety maybe, or could be just a misconception. I don't know what her name is, but and I'm sure not only one person, but
Ariwa.
Huh?
Ariwa. My name is Ariwa.
Hayashallah. And so this can also be true to other people as well, not only you. So there's sometimes we want to do research. Okay, I'm not going to do it because I heard from my friends or colleagues that it requires A, B, C, and I don't think I'm ready to do that. Okay, see what I mean? So sometimes you might have this kind of fear of failure. So I'm not going to do it because I know I'm not going to be perfect in the way that that will be acceptable by my supervisors. Okay, so that's fear of failure or perfectionism. Okay, don't worry about that. Okay, and sometimes we are overwhelmed of complexity, like work load, or the topic might be beyond our capacity, and sometimes and so on. But reflective thinking helps us reframe the challenges and stay motivated. Okay, it's very important to engage in reflective thinking because it can reframe the challenges. Okay, you have different perspectives to those challenges. You talk to people, you attend workshops like this one, you email somebody who can help you and clarify things, and through this kind of reflective thinking and critical thinking and communication with others, you reframe the challenges and you stay motivated, and by the end of the day, hopefully those challenges will disappear in thin air. Okay, all right. Let's look at this slide on reflection and action. Let's talk about now how you could put your reflection into action. So what can you do? You can do like journaling tools like OneNote. You can use Notion, for example. There's so many tools that are available for your journaling, for your reflection. You can also use visual organizers like mind maps, concept minds, and so on. Okay, very useful. Okay, if you are not writing, you can draw. You can put your thoughts down on a piece of paper in terms of visual organizers, or like mind maps or concept minds and so on. Okay, or you can even use voice memos for quick reflections. Okay, and this is important because sometimes you get an idea, if you just leave it for like 2 hours later, we live in a very fast-paced kind of world. The world we live in is a very fast, and things keep changing very rapidly. Too fast for us to grasp. To cope with. And so sometimes you need to write down, or even if you don't have that much time, then you can use voice memos. Self-reflective prompts regularly is also important. You can set prompts for reflective writing, which will help you again in your reflections. Okay, we now come to something practical. Okay, so far we've talked about reflection, we talk about writing, journals, okay, and so on. How can we put this into actions? Okay, we have today a representative of a journal. We thank them for being with us here today and for being so proactive in giving the chance to our students, ourselves as well, to write something about the situation going on. And this journal is the Brief Encounters, and they are offering a special issue. So students, what can you write down for them? How can you contribute? How can you connect to the outside world? How can you be part of us? How can you be part of the journals, yeah, of everyone else? Okay. Am I losing power on my move? Okay, just wait a minute. Okay, just give me 1 second to end the show. Okay, it looks like my charger, my laptop is not charging. Just 1 second.
Take your time, Dr. Hashil.
Okay. It's connected to the charger, but for some reason it's not charging. I now need to engage in reflective and critical thinking myself to solve this issue.
Had you been in Gaza, I would have said that's normal, Dr. Hashil, but in the UK, this is kind of unpredictable.
Yeah, it's just the cable, I think, that I have.
Yeah, it happens always in
Yeah, an issue.
technology.
Yeah, just excuse me for a second.
That's fine. That's fine. Take your time. In the meantime, guys, just prepare because Dr. Hashil was asking you, these are the types of contribution that you could send to a journal. Brief encounters is just one example. So think what kind of contribution that you'd like to choose and why. Perhaps just wait for Dr. Hashil to come back because she will raise the question. Dr. Hashil, it's back to you.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay. Go ahead, Dr. Ahmed. You are saying something to...
No, I was just completing your thought. You were talking about the types of contributions students could send to brief encounters. So I'll just return the microphone to you so you can continue.
Yeah, thank you. So we want just to link what we have said so far with something more practical. So here is an opportunity for everyone, students and faculty members, to contribute to this journal. So what we could do, you could write different types of papers. It could be a research paper, a research article. We'll talk about the structure of a research paper, how you can conduct research and then and report your findings later on in our subsequent event workshops. You can write research papers or research articles, and 500 to 5,000 words. It can range from 500 to 5,000 words. It can be short, can be of medium length, can be full length papers, depending on the scope, depending on your level as well. They are flexible, I think. They will have the chance to talk more to you about this. You can write reviews of books, films, documentaries, or exhibitions up to 1,500 words. You can even have some kind of creative work, okay, including like fiction, poetry, videos, posters, photography, and so on, of up to 4,000 words. Or you can you can produce or present, submit any work that records your lived experiences and reflection during your current crisis, up to 1,800 words. So it can be brief kind of description. So this is one way to reflect and put your reflection or reflective thoughts in action by writing for the journal. And of course, you can have more information about that. Okay, what are the takeaways at the end? What are the key takeaways? What can we learn from this? First of all, research and reflection go hand in hand, and we have seen that your reflective, the kind of questions you ask during your reflection can help you become more critical, and together reflection and critical thinking can help you become a better researcher. All right, and then both skills that grow with practice. The more you do, the more you grow better. So you need to also you need to engage in practice. Okay, so look at this prompts here. What one insight you are taking away from today's sessions? What are the something that you can share with us today that you have learned and you would like to do in future? So over to you now with some kind of reflection. So now you have learned about reflection, critical thinking, reflective writing, and how you could incorporate that with research. And let's see how, what ideas have you got in your mind after this, and at the same time, what are the worries? Maybe you have some kind of worries or some kind of hesitations, let's say, that stops you from doing something. We are here to help you. You just need to share your thoughts, share your concerns or worries about anything with us, so we can help you, because the whole purpose is to develop this kind of habit of becoming critical thinkers, reflective thinkers, reflective practitioners, in order to be able to think in a better way and then produce research based on the situations we live in. So anyone, the floor is open to anyone who would like to share his or her thoughts. What are some of the worries? What have you learned from today's session? And what are you planning to do in the future based on this? So you can go ahead. And if you have, again, a general questions as well, you are more than welcome. So thank you, everyone. And the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hashil. I think students will agree that this is really informative. I myself learned so much today, and I was taking notes because there were a lot of new topics that I would love to read more and learn more about. I've put a question, and then I'll turn to Dr.
Excuse me?
Saif and then other students if they have questions. Now you talked about tips and code cycles of reflective thinking, and I think this is really interesting because this shows you like steps where you can start and where you can end up. But when following these two cycles, do you think we should include those frameworks, whatever you call them, in the writing itself, or it's just a guide for us to follow when thinking, and we don't have to refer to when we write?
Yeah, if we take, for example, thank you, Dr. Ahmed. If we want to take the JIP cycle, for example, which comprises 6 stages, usually we follow those 6 stages in order to write our thoughts. For example, the first one is description. So you describe your situation, the situation you are in. And then you move on to an evaluation, to analysis, and finally the future actions. So you go through the action, those cycles one after another, and there are some certain guidelines under each one of these. I didn't have the chance to show you the whole diagram, but that's what we use with our students. There are some guiding questions that goes with each of those 6 stages. And students usually answer those questions. If you have time, I can share with you those questions. There are series of questions under each cycle that guides the students on how to complete each section. So yeah, we include them in our report. and then headings and as well, and so on. I can share with you that one if you are interested. Let me find it. So reflective writing, yeah. If I just take a second for your time, then it will be okay. Okay, so if you look at this one here, for example, sharing, yep. Okay, if you look at this one now, this is another file on reflective writing, and as you can see, takes the participant through the definition of reflection, what it means. That's something we already covered. What is reflection? It's a serious thought of consideration, personal response, processing phase, where thinking and learning takes place, purposeful. We are documenting our response to experiences. We are communicating our response and thoughts. Reflective cycle is not this what we have covered. There's a diagram here and some models of reflective thinking. So we have the Kolb reflective cycle, which was published in 1984, the Sham model, 1991, in which he talked about the in-action and the on-action reflection, and also the Driscoll model that came out in 1994. But the 1988, we have Gibbs reflective cycle. This is the one we use with our students, and this is how it looks. So these are the 6 cycles, Dr. Ahmed and everyone here with us. As you can see, it begins with the description of what happened. We then proceed to writing about how we felt about the event. And then we do some kind of evaluation, what was good and bad about the experience, and then analysis, conclusion, and action plans. And this is the guiding questions, Dr. Ahmed, for each one of the stages. So in the stage number 1, which is the descriptive, we have all these questions where students answer in this stage. Like, for example, were you there? Well, where else was, who else was there? Why were you there? And so what WH questions about the stage. And then stage number 2 is about the feelings and thoughts. Again, some kind of guiding questions. Stage 3, stage 4, 5, and also 6. So as you can see, there's about the guiding questions for students to follow. Okay. So
I think this is practical and really relevant to what perhaps students choose to write on if they want to document their lived experiences and contribute to the journal. This will be a really useful guide. It will facilitate the process for them.
It just makes exactly because that many of the students said, okay, now Dr. Hashil, Dr. Ahmed, you want us to be reflective, you want us to write something down, but how can we do that? I mean, show us an example, show us something practical. So that's the one way to do it, and it might not be the only way. Of course, it's not the only way. It might be something that can be considered as your initial stage of engagement with critical thinking and reflective thinking. At the end of the day, we want them to put their thoughts down on a piece of paper and then share it with others. Of course, it will go through a process of editing, of blind review, and then you will get some feedback on how to improve your work before it ends up published.
Sure. Yeah. Interesting. Dr. Saif, you have a question. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
I'm so glad to be here, by the way, and I have much to talk about, but maybe because of the limited time we have, I would love just to ask one question to our dear colleague, Dr. Hashil. Dr. Ahmed, is it Dr. Hashil or Dr. Hashim? I'm sorry for this question.
Hashil with L, Billam.
Okay, Dr. Hashil. Dr. Hashil, thank you so much for your inspiring presentation. It is really fruitful and very important for our students to learn about reflective research and reflective thinking and critical thinking as well. And thank you so much for supporting us, supporting our students at this harsh time that we have been, through since the beginning of the war. Your presentation is really interesting, very, very interesting and very important. And we as researchers as well have learned something new from your presentation. Maybe there's just something that I would like to, share with you, and that I would like you to make it maybe clear to our students. Maybe some students would ask about how can we be critical thinkers? How can we be reflective thinkers? How can we adopt reflection? So there are strategies, there are methods through which students can be or can learn how to reflect while searching, while reviewing papers, or while learning something new. So I would suggest that we may share some of these important strategies with students in order to help them how to be critical thinkers as well as reflective thinkers. So these strategies, as Dr. Ahmed mentioned just 10 minutes before, implicitly he asked about the framework, about I think you asked this, Dr. Ahmed, right? You were talking about some framework that would help the students
Yeah, that's
develop
GIPS
critical thinking. Yes, it is just same concept. So just to make it simple, it would be great if we can teach students these strategies through which they can learn how to reflect and how to be critical thinkers.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Saif. Yeah, I agree. And this is the reason why we have this GIP cycle, the 6 stages, incorporated in our courses, the course I teach back home in Oman. And students are giving a situation, and then they work in groups, and then they use the GIP 6 cycles to reflect on the experiences of working together. We give them a problem to solve, and they are solving that problem in groups, and then they have to reflect on the experiences that they went through using the GIP six stage cycles. And then these are just guiding questions. You see, Dr. Saif, the problem with this is that you can't impose a particular model on the students. That because there are more than one way to reflect. We can't say that, well, you reflect on this particular way or in that particular way. We are only just showing them different models, like the Kolb model or the GIPS model, in order to help them reflect, and then we leave it up to them. Because people go through different kind of experiences, they have their own conceptualization of the experiences, and it's really hard to impose a particular model on people. It's I believe that we should leave it up to the people to reflect the way they like. Once we have showed them the overall models and approaches, and then we leave it up to them. We can't say that this is a right reflection or a wrong reflection. All reflections matter. All reflections make sense, at least to the people who are practicing that kind of reflection. And then our goals then later as educators to help the students through the process of editing, improving those kind of reflections. And then if they are heading to research, then again we help them formulate research questions based on the reflective thoughts. As I mentioned in my presentation, that those kind of questions you ask during reflection can well develop into specific research questions after refining them, after writing them in a particular way that fits research, the way research is done. And so yes, it's up to the students to reflect and then shape their reflections into research questions and then carry out that particular piece of research.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hashil. Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you
it's a
so
very
thank you so much for sharing your thoughts as well. Yeah. But there's one thing we both, I think, agree with is that the students need some kind of guidelines, and that's why we have this kind of models for them integrated within the course. And I think you can also have the same in your departments.
And I think, Dr. Hashil, one more thing that we should encourage students to do. I think it is very hard for students to be critical and reflective if they haven't acquired enough knowledge about something that they are investigating. So students must acquire knowledge. They must get as much knowledge as possible in order for them to investigate something new. So without having enough knowledge about something, it is impossible for them to be critical and to be reflective. So we may encourage students to read about something that they want to investigate before they start. Why? Because if they do not have enough knowledge about the thing that they are working on, they cannot write. They cannot come up with new questions and research problem and data collection and whatever.
Yeah, I agree. Sure.
Okay.
So just my
and I hope that this session and the other sessions that we are planning for future will contribute to achieving this.
Inshallah. Just my point is just one thing. Knowledge is key. So without having enough knowledge, it is impossible for anyone to be critical. How can we ask someone to be critical if he or she doesn't have enough knowledge about something? So knowledge is very important.
Sure.
Okay, Dr. Ahmed.
That's useful. Thank you. Dr. Yahya, you have a question? Go ahead.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum. Really, I'd like to thank all the faculty and the students attending this webinar. A zillion of thanks to Dr. Hashil for your informative, insightful, inspiring presentation. Really, your expertise and knowledge have greatly contributed to the understanding of the targeted topic. Really, I'm honored, Dr. Hashil, to know you. You are an exemplary person at the Sultan Qaboos University in the Sultanate of Oman, Department of Research Innovation. Before asking the question, I'd like also to thank Dr. Ahmed. Zillion of thanks to you and to Dr. Hashil, Dr. Ahmed. As I mentioned, Dr. Ahmed always dedicates his time and efforts to improve students' standards despite the challenging circumstances in Gaza at the current time. Dr. Ahmed, really you are an excellent person, professional, makes the English department exceptional at Al-Aqsa University. Really, I'm proud of being affiliated with the same university as well. Thank you, Dr. Hashil. Really, I have a question. As you know, I came across and I am honored to know also Dr. Hashil when I met him in a conference, and until the moment he is a close friend to me. Anyways, Dr. Hashil, may you clarify, please, what is the challenging part of the research process for the researchers or for the students?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Yahya. It was really an honor and a privilege meeting you, knowing you. Thank you so much. There is not one single answer to this. People have different challenges. Some people would approach us asking about choosing their research topics. Others have no problem with the topic itself, but they have a problem with the research design. Others have, okay, they got their designs, but when it comes to data analysis, they have the big challenge of how can I analyze all the huge amount of data I have gathered, especially in qualitative research, okay, and so on. But from my experience and from my long years of working with PG students, the data analysis is the biggest challenge because people can easily design research, they collect the data, but then they have to find a way to deal with all this huge amount of data they have gathered. And so they need guidance on how they can make sense of their data, interpret their data, and then writing it, reporting it in the correct way. In quantitative research, qualitative, mixed method, these are three different broad approaches to research, and each one requires certain methods of handling with the data, and also writing up the research. So I would say the data analysis part of the research process is the one that we receive most of the questions on. But
Thank
as
you,
I
Dr.
said, people have different concerns, or it depends again on how good they are in terms of a particular stage. Some of them they have mastered the research designs. They know different designs of qualitative research, for example, case studies, ethnography research, narrative research, grounded theory research, phenomenology, and so on. They know all of this, but they can collect the data, fine. But then the data analysis, as I said, in line with that particular design that they have chosen would be a challenge to them. That's when they approach others for consultation and for questions and so on.
Thank you, Dr. Hashil. Really a zillion of thanks to you again, and respect and appreciation for your support in this really current circumstance. Thank you. All respect to you, Dr. Hashil.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ahmed. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yahya. Just a note, everyone. Before we lose our students, because I understand like they might run out of charge in their devices, whether it's laptop, smartphone, etc. So I would, if you have any questions, please keep them to the end of the session. We'll come back to questions, and in the meantime, I will give the floor to George, Millie, and Chris to present their part, and then at the end of the day, we'll come back to receive any questions if you have, just in order not to lose any of the current participants. So, George, the microphone is yours.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you, and thank you so much, Dr. Hashil. That was a phenomenally comprehensive presentation, and I think all of us learned so much. I'm going to share my screen, if that's okay.
Sure, yeah.
Figure out how to do that. I'm so sorry. I haven't done it for a long time.
You'll find the green arrow at the
that.
bottom of the screen. Just if you hit it.
Yes.
You're almost there.
Let me. Oh, I've got it. Thank you. Here we go. Here we go. Sorry, everyone. Now you may see my screen, I hope.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, Dr. Hashil has covered this, so I'm just going to talk with you about a few examples from brief encounters, because I understand that it seems difficult to imagine at an early stage what you might have to contribute and how you might begin this process of reflection, and I think understanding yourself and what matters to you and why you want to try and find knowledge and create knowledge about something. So hopefully by showing you these examples, we will be able to encourage you that these things are constantly evolving. It's all, like Dr. Hashil said, it's an organic process. And writing for brief encounters, we hope, will be partly an opportunity to explore something. We don't expect you to find the answers to arrive at the truth, but to recognize that you have something valuable to contribute and to share with us your hard work and express it in a written way or in a creative way. So first of all, if I may, take you through this example, which is an example of a research article that was published in Brief Encounters in 2018. So what I have here is just the abstract, which we will, of course, I know Dr. Hashil will discuss in so much more detail, but this will just give you a rough idea of what the person wrote about and how they went about doing this piece of research. So I will read it out briefly. I hope that's okay. In this article, I discuss the creative potential of alternative photographic processes in anthropological research. So already a very clear summary of they're using photography to explore a question about how to do anthropological research, so how to study our fellow human beings. They proceed to say, I argue that an experimental fine art approach to photography can be more effective in fieldwork than the ubiquitous documentary style favored to illustrate ethnographic texts. I think already it becomes clear that what they're trying to do is complicated, and they are trying to show that they are a specialist in this kind of work. But I'd say briefly, they're just trying to show that fine art as a way of using photography could be a more effective way to produce knowledge than documentary. That's their argument. So it would seem that they want to try and pursue this to find out something about how we understand each other, and they want to use photography as their medium to do that. I'll briefly read, I'll skip the middle part. The end part reads, this approach to visual methodologies challenges the positioning of the researcher to their participants and allows collaboration and creative engagement in the field. It connects visual practice with phenomenological approaches to experience. So what they've done here is to say what they plan to do and how they plan to do it, and ultimately what effect they think it will have on knowledge in a broader way on the field of visual methodologies, so how we use photography in general. So that's one example of a possible research study that somebody's done. I would draw attention to the fact that they say they're at an early stage. It's something they're in the process of working on. It's not something they've completed and have arrived at the answer about. And then the next example I have to show you is a much shorter one. This was an abstract for a review that was submitted to Brief Encounters in 2019. As you'll see, it's very different from the research article abstract. They are describing a particular book, a book called The History of Violence by Edouard Louis, and they're trying to convey their opinion about it. Of course, that's the purpose of giving a review. They can still do it, I would argue, in a reflective way, and also even in a systematic way, if they're questioning why they think what they think, and they're explaining their reasoning for that. I won't read this one out, so I know we're short of time, but I should have said as well, you will receive these articles. I'll send them to you, Ahmed, after the session, so the students have access to these. The last example I have, come back. There we go. It's for a creative work. So in this case, an abstract would be very different. The kind of knowledge you're making would be very different. It would be much more personal, possibly, but it would not necessarily be systematic in the way that Dr. Hashil has described. It wouldn't necessarily apply a particular method or a particular research design, though it would still produce knowledge. It would still tell the people who would experience it something. So in this case, this person, they're talking particularly about a poem that described the experience of getting married and changing their name. And so I hope that demonstrates at least partly the ways in which you can approach doing your reflective thought and doing your understanding of what you care about and what motivates you, that will hopefully not make you feel discouraged and daunted by the process, Because ultimately, I suppose being here from Brief Encounters, it's more, I want to convey to you that it's really important to us that you want to participate in this and that you want to share your own thinking and your own ideas. I will pass over to Millie and Chris because I realise I haven't given them the opportunity to share their thoughts. I'll stop sharing my screen now. So Millie and Chris, do you have anything to add or to clarify of what I tried to share?
I would say one point when I first started writing abstracts that wasn't immediately obvious to me is what tense they're written in. It might seem like a really basic point, but often you're asked to submit abstracts in advance of having written the paper or written the article, right? And so, or like if you're doing it for a conference before you've done the conference, and so the tendency or the feeling is that you need to write it in the future tense. I will be talking about it in this way. I will be saying this. I will discuss this. But if you look at the examples that George used, then you can see that it's written in the present tense, the present simple. I discuss this. I argue that, and that just seems to be like a conventional thing that I wasn't actually aware of when I first started doing this kind of thing. That is probably useful to be aware of. And I guess if we're trying to draw a line between Dr. Hashil's work on reflection and reflective writing, when you come across a lot of kind of briefs or what we call for papers, where people are asking you to submit ideas for a journal, and they'll have a specific theme or an idea in mind, right? And you might wish to submit work to this journal or for this conference, and you might initially think that perhaps you don't have anything worth contributing or nothing that quite fits the briefing. So what I always tend to do is I just kind of copy and paste the briefing into a document, and I think about, are there any keywords that are in there and the kind of key ideas they're looking for, and thinking about ways in which I can connect my work with that. It might not be immediately obvious and it might not be the most clearest link, but often there's a way to reframe or rethink about your work in a way that is relevant for what they want to achieve and kind of meet somewhere in the middle. So it's a case of reflecting on what you would like to do, but also how does that match with what the journal or the conference or might also be wanting to achieve. I think when we did our most recent call for papers for Brief Encounters, there were abstracts that had no relationship to the call for papers, the briefing that we sent out. And I think it's important to show that you've read it and that you are interested in what they are doing. And so it might be a little bit cursory. It might not even be totally exactly what you want to say, but it shows the people reading it that you have thought about at least how your work applies to that theme and that you've kind of read what they're putting out. And I just think for me, those are a couple of things that, so the tense in which you're writing and also the kind of making sure your abstract does use keywords or does match with the briefing that you've been sent is really key. Yeah. Millie?
Yeah, I'll just add one very quick thing because we are short on time, but I think just reflecting on, agree with both George and Chris's comments, but also just in thinking about abstracts, those examples that George has included are fantastic for demonstrating each abstract shows you the crux and the central point of the submission. And I think that's a really useful thing when you're thinking about abstracts in relation to this workshop and in relation to reflective thinking. Because each abstract you can see is honing in on, this is the problem that my research is grappling with. This is the central thing that my writing or the thing that I am researching or arguing here is trying to unpack. And so when you're thinking about everything that's been talked about today about reflective thinking, you can really see in those abstracts what the author has been reflecting on. And you can see that being the central point of what their paper will be talking about. And that's really, really helpful for editors when they're reviewing abstracts, because they can see straight away, just from that brief paragraph, what the heart of the problem is that this writer is grappling with. I'll stop there.
Was that helpful? Are there any questions in light of what we've shared?
I think this is really helpful and relevant in terms of guiding students on what you in the journal expect of them. And I've received some questions from students who are interested to contribute to the journal, and they were sending their contribution, their whole contribution as one bulk. And I said, well, just attend this webinar and hopefully it will guide you through the process of what we expect you to write. But yeah, what you said, Chris, is really relevant in terms of writing the tense for future. It's something I'll be doing. I haven't investigated yet, but I'll be investigating. I'll be reflecting on my own experience, my lived experience during the war, etc. And I think this is also relevant for students' lived experiences. But yeah, I mean, if you want to add any other things, George, Millie, or Chris, please feel free. Otherwise, we can receive a few questions from students if they have any. Before we wrap up, George, if you want to add anything, or
yes, I think questions sounds good. I think that would be better. Yeah.
All right. Any questions, guys? Please feel free to ask any questions. Roba, please go ahead.
Opportunity and this workshop, and I'd like to ask a question about the abstract and the workshop. So can I resend my abstract, because I feel like I did not write it the way you described in the example you have attached, because I feel like I made it kind of broad, and I can fix it or just like make it better.
I really appreciate that. I think that's a wonderful example of how this is a process, and abstracts in themselves are quite strange things to write, in that you're doing the work and you're also trying to imagine the work at the same time. So, I mean, Dr. Ahmed, if that's fine with you, that's certainly fine with us, and we appreciate you doing that. I think reiterative process is the phrase Dr. Hashil used, going back again and keeping practicing and building your confidence. That sounds, yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, Rob, I think it should be fine.
I would like to also to add something, that sometimes abstracts are written at the end of the research process, when everything is done. Then that's the time when we write the abstract, not at the very beginning, because the abstract will need to reflect on whatever has been done, the initial planning, the research objectives, the key results, recommendations, and the takeaways, and so on. Right? These are the basic components of a good structure. And sometimes before conducting the actual research, you don't have that much about the whole process. So sometimes it's better to leave the writing the abstract until the end of the end of the paper, because sometimes we ask for submission of an abstract, and then we ask the people to go and collect the data, which might not be actually possible. But if we then based our abstract on a work that has already been done, then that can take a better shape, I think. So sometimes even the title of a research, that can be left till very end to write it in a way that reflects the actual content of the work of the project or the research paper. But there are different approaches anyway. What is important here, I think, is that we want to make things easy and simple and straightforward to our students. Let help them, scaffold them throughout the process, and provide them with whatever possible, whatever they need. If they have a problem formulating their titles, we can help with that. If there's a problem with the structure of an abstract, We can help them even like writing the keywords that comes just under the abstract. So we are all here to help them do that, because this is the first experience maybe, and we want to facilitate the whole process for them, and we want to bring them on board, right? We don't want to present things like, wow, so professional and very far from no, it's a you are being taken on board, you are being assisted, you are being scaffolded, and we are all on board here to help you, and you don't need to worry about it. So yeah, it's so that kind of assistance, I think, is important. At least they feel secure. They are in a friendly environment, they are secure environment, and that's how we can encourage more contribution from students.
Hi.
I agree. Yeah, that's right, Dr. Hashil. And I think perhaps if we agree on a term that you could call it an expression of interest, where you express your interest in submitting something or sending something to the journal. Perhaps abstract is more linked to research, empirical research. But if we call it expression of interest, just telling us briefly what you wanted to send to the journal, and then talk briefly about it.
Can I
That
add
might
something?
help. But Roba, you are absolutely fine to resend your abstract if you want to follow the new format of that abstract or expression of interest. I'll be sending you those examples. I recall that your contribution is more related to poetry, so there is an example there, so you can probably read that and resend if you no problem. Who wanted to add? Go ahead. Roba, was that Roba?
It wasn't me, but I also have another question, if it's okay.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So my question here is more related to the GIPS method or model. I've got just one thing in my mind when you mentioned the GIPS model, which is feelings. It started describing your feelings, and that looked kind of, shocking, because we all just have that stereotype, which is research, meaning mind/logic, not feelings. And I want to just ask how those things align together.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. I was while you were talking, I was like opening the slides, and if I can share this quickly. Okay. So as you can see, this is the second stage. Yeah, is it on screen already?
Yeah.
Yes. So this is the stage where you share your feelings. The second stage, and this is essential. It's feelings and thoughts. It's when you recall and explore those things that were going on inside your head. And so you ask yourself questions like, what were your feelings when the event started? What were you thinking about the time? How do you make you feel that kind of incident? How did other people make you feel? How did you feel about the outcome of the event? And then finally, what do you think about it now? Those are reflective questions about how you felt about it, about the other people, and it's part of the whole process. Later on, of course, you're going to put this together with the other stages, and so over time, it's not going to be your own only just isolated feelings, but it's feelings and emotions and thoughts, your reflections on that particular incident that can be described in an academic way. Academia is not against personal feelings. It's not against how we express our feelings and emotions. In fact, qualitative research is sometimes being like critiqued as being so subjective. But subjectivity is part of us as human beings. And we use subjectivity and our own reflective thinking, our own experiences in order to understand in order to express our feelings about the incidents, about the experience that we go through. We can't isolate our feelings from us as human beings. We are full of emotions, and but we have to be careful about biases. Okay, we are biased in one way or another, but in a way that supports again the rigor of the research. And I'm always being asked this question about qualitative research. When I promote qualitative research, you say, well, it's all about feelings and emotions. And I said, yes, because it's how people react to the environments around them. It's about how they react to the situations and their own personal experiences. So if you are worried about being so subjective or worried about expressing your feelings, and you may think that this might not be really research work, is that the kind of worries that you have in your mind about this?
It's like kind of, if it's being subjective, so not more than one observer can confirm them. This is my issue. Like if it's objective, so any other observer can confirm them, but if it's subjective, how would they?
It's not a requirement in qualitative research that how you feel is judged by someone else. I mean, you now you go through this horrific experience, in Gaza. Are you from Gaza, Yusuf? Sorry.
Yes, I am.
Yes. So I mean, is there anybody, I mean, who could say, well, no, you live 5 stars there. What you have written down and that reflection does not reflect the reality. I know that you are not, it's your feeling. You are describing the situation you are in, and in qualitative research, we accept that. It doesn't have to be like go through, these, judges who said, well, accept this and reject this. This is qualitative research. It's not like this the kind of process that is usually followed in quantitative research in terms of validation, in terms of validity and reliability of the research. We have different measures in qualitative research. We do account for personal experiences and reflections and the feelings, and we document that in research the way they were expressed by the participants. We as researchers, we have no right to change and judge how people felt. If I'm like making observation or engaged in a group discussions and my participants have expressed certain opinion or showed certain feelings and emotions, I have to document that the way they have done it and then report it again in that way, and then try to say, well, this is the kind of situation people live there. And before publishing it, I'll give it back to you to validate it. And that's what we call responder validation. All right, or member checking. And so I'll give it back to you. You check it. You check my interpretation of your feelings and emotions, how you express them. If you agree with my interpretation, then we go ahead with publications. If you think, well, if you have some comments there, again, I should be open to accept those feelings and or comments from you, because at the end of the day, I have to publish research that is actually representative of of what the participants actually wanted to say, or according to how they felt at that particular moment of time. You see what I mean? So don't worry about people judging it. It might not be, it may not sound so objective and so on. Objectivity is not a big deal in qualitative research. We are so subjective, but again, we're not biased. So we need to just to make sure that we may discuss this later in our future sessions when we talk about subjectivity and objectivity in research. But I hope this explanation helps the issue you're worried about.
Thanks, Dr. Hashil, and thanks, Robert. That was a good question, and it reminds me of an instance. And I just to second what you said, Dr. Hashil, about subjectivity. When you reflect on your own experience, it's absolutely fine in research to even use the pronoun I. We were taught that never use pronoun I in academic writing, and this might be one of the misconceptions about or overgeneralizations about not to use pronoun I. I recently wrote an research article about, you could say reflective article upon my experience teaching during the war. And when I started the article, I started with this sentence. I said, during writing this article, the noise of drones overhead and the ambulances surrounding me. And this was exactly the experience I went through. And the comment by one of the reviewers was, this is a powerful start. This is absolutely fine because it's all my own experience. It's not about just subjectivity. I'm just explaining what's happening. I'm trying to make the reader feel what I'm going through. And this is part of my experience. So it's absolutely fine to reflect on your own feelings. Robert, please go ahead and reflect. Any other questions? If you have any questions or comments to Dr. Hashil, to George.
Can I add something?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay, thanks for Dr. Hashil, and I will appreciate his effort in amazing presentation. But as we researchers, maybe we are understand if you are put in practical side. So we just apply the knowledge, the traditional information in a practical way. So inshallah, in sooner sessions, can we just maybe try to use some examples كعينة a part of some researchers and maybe add and give us his comment on how can we change or modify the knowledge that we are using. That's what I can read.
Yes, using sample of previous publications can be useful, but I personally don't want to, do this, every time, because I think that if we show you a model, an example, everyone will just follow that example. We want you to be creative in your own way. We want to encourage innovation and creativity. And you also need to understand that we are all different and we all have our own styles and so on. So we don't want all to put things to bracket things and to put things like in a certain squares that okay, this is the model, this is the one example to follow and so on. This will limit creativity, I think. We want you to once you have learned the outline, the overall guidelines on how to write reflective writing, how to do that, then it's up to you. So you have to be as imaginative, creative, and as you can, because we want to limit your contribution with one or two examples. There's no problem in seeing a couple of examples. That's fine.
I'm not meaning that you give us some model of samples, but I mean that we can maybe apply our knowledge in a practical. We can write some paragraph or some parts of research and direct us to the main way.
You mean an interactive workshop?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean that. Thanks.
Yes. Sure. Yes. Some sample can be shared. Okay, this is the overall structure of an abstract and so on. This is a very good abstract. This is an abstract with some mistakes, and yeah, that we can do that. Yes, sure.
Hopefully for the future. This is a good idea for the future. Thanks. Yes, Yasmin. Any other comments, questions before we call it a day and finish? One last question, if you have. If you don't, that's fine, because we'll be sending you the recording. You can visit again shortly. I'll be sending you the recording just after the end of the meeting, and we also will be sharing with you the slides that George used, so you can go back and look at the sample abstracts. If you have any questions, you can also send me an email if you have any follow-up questions. I understand. Well, guys, it's Sunday in the UK, and those lovely people are trying to help you and help us during their weekend, and I don't want to hold them for longer. So I want to thank you, Dr. Hashil, for your time and effort. Thank you, George, for your passion and effort and time, and always following up and encouragement to continue. Thank you, Millie. It's great to see you. Millie is a Kiwi, a fellow Kiwi. Chris, it's great to have you today. Hopefully, we'll have more sessions on the agenda. And, this is for the benefit, of course, of our students. I thank all staff members who joined us today from the English department. I thank the students for their participation and engagement. Thank you, everyone, and let's stop now, and hopefully we'll see you soon. I'll be announcing a workshop on Saturday next week, so stay tuned. Thank you so much.